Buyane anda kufava chita urashua
Kuchitina tora seini kaino shokori mwe wakati uza tora nibi usitonge.
Buyane anda kufava chita urashua
Kuchitina tora seini kaino shokori mwe.
Mugabe's political awakening coincided with a broader surge of Pan-Africanism across the continent, a powerful ideology advocating for the unity and self-determination of all African peoples. He was deeply influenced by figures like Kwame Nkrumah and Julius Nyerere, embracing the belief that the liberation of one African nation was inextricably linked to the freedom of all. This wasn't merely about Zimbabwe, it was about reclaiming the dignity of an entire continent. When peaceful protests were met with brutal repression by the Rhodesian white minority regime, Mugabe, alongside other defiant leaders, concluded that armed struggle was the only viable path to liberation. He became a key figure in ZANU, the Zimbabwe African National Union, and later led its military wing, ZANLA. For years, he orchestrated a protracted guerrilla war from bases in neighboring countries, enduring imprisonment and exile, but never wavering in his conviction. The culmination of this arduous struggle arrived on April 18, 1980. As the Union Jack was lowered and the new Zimbabwean flag was raised, Robert Mugabe stood at the pinnacle of his achievements. He was not just a freedom fighter, he was a national hero, the architect of independence, the man who had delivered his people from colonial bondage. His inaugural speech calling for reconciliation and nation-building resonated with hope and promise. In the initial years of independence, Mugabe's government made significant strides in social development, expanding access to education and healthcare for the black majority who had long been denied these fundamental rights. He championed land redistribution, a contentious but, for many,
Don't mind having and bearing sanctions banning us from Europe. We are not Europeans. We have not asked for any inch of Europe or any square inch of that territory. So, Blair, keep your England and let me keep my Zimbabwe. Mr. Chairman, having said that, may I say, people must always come first in any process of sustainable development. And let our Africans come first in the development of Africa, not as puppets, not as beggars, but as a sovereign people. I thank you.
To many Zimbabweans and Pan-Africanists, he remained a towering figure, a beacon of self-determination. However, the narrative of Robert Mugabe is one of stark contrasts and evolving legacies. As the years progressed, his leadership faced increasing scrutiny, both internationally and domestically. Economic challenges, allegations of human rights abuses, and a tightening grip on power led to a re-evaluation of his hero status by some. Yet even his harshest critics often acknowledge the undeniable impact of his role in liberating Zimbabwe and inspiring a generation across Africa. Robert Mugabe's story is a powerful reminder that history is rarely black and white. He was a man shaped by the struggles of his time, a formidable intellect who defied an oppressive system, and a leader whose journey from liberation hero to controversial statesman remains a crucial chapter in the ongoing narrative of post-colonial Africa. His legacy compels us to ask, what does it truly mean to be a liberator? What is the cost of freedom, and how do nations navigate the complex path from revolution to enduring stability? The arc of Robert Mugabe's power, once soaring with the triumph of liberation, began its slow, inevitable descent in the twilight of his life. The very qualities that had cemented his grip, his unwavering resolve, his strategic cunning, his refusal to yield, paradoxically became the catalyst for his undoing. By the early 2000s, the dream of a prosperous Zimbabwe, born from the fires of independence, was increasingly overshadowed by economic hardship and political repression. The fast-track land reform program, initiated with fervor in 2000, while correcting historical injustices for some, plunged the agricultural sector, once the backbone of the economy, into chaos. International sanctions followed.
Don't mind having and bearing sanctions banning us from Europe. We are not Europeans. We have not asked for any inch of Europe or any square inch of that territory. So, Blair, keep your England and let me keep my Zimbabwe. Mr. Chairman, having said that, may I say, people must always come first in any process of sustainable development. And let our Africans come first in the development of Africa, not as puppets, not as beggars, but as a sovereign people. I thank you.
As dissent grew, so did the ruthlessness of the state. The MDC, Movement for Democratic Change, led by the charismatic Morgan Tsvangirai, emerged as a formidable opposition, challenging ZANU-PF's decades-long dominance. Elections became fiercely contested, often marred by allegations of fraud and violence. Mugabe, once a beacon of anti-colonialism, was now widely criticized for clinging to power, employing tactics that betrayed the democratic ideals he once championed. But the most significant challenge to Mugabe's authority wouldn't come from the opposition, but from within his own party and, indeed, his own family. As he aged, the question of succession became a dangerous game of thrones. At the heart of this power struggle were two dominant factions: the G40, a group loyal to Mugabe's ambitious wife, Grace Mugabe, often dubbed Gucci Grace for her lavish lifestyle, and the Lacoste faction, led by his longtime ally and vice president, Emerson Mnangagwa, a former intelligence chief known as the Crocodile. Grace Mugabe, with her increasingly vocal political ambitions, made it clear she sought to succeed her husband. This put her on a direct collision course with Mnangagwa, who had patiently waited in the wings for decades. The power struggle reached its boiling point in November 2017. On November 6, 2017, in a move widely seen as clearing the path for his wife, Robert Mugabe dramatically fired his vice president, Emerson Mnangagwa, accusing him of disloyalty and insubordination. This proved to be a fatal miscalculation. Mnangagwa swiftly fled the country, but his allies remained. Just days later, on the night of November 14, 2017, the unthinkable happened. The military, under the command of General Constantino Chiwenga, a staunch Mnangagwa loyalist, moved into action. Tanks rolled into Harare, seizing key installations. This was no ordinary coup. The military insisted it was merely a bloodless correction aimed at targeting criminals around Mugabe, ensuring the legitimacy of the government, not overthrowing the president. For several tense days, Robert Mugabe, effectively under house arrest, resisted. But with no external support, dwindling internal loyalty, and a nation demanding change, his options evaporated. On November 21, 2017, as Parliament began impeachment proceedings against him, the 93-year-old president, after 37 years in power, finally submitted his resignation. The crowds erupted in jubilation, pouring onto the streets of Harare, celebrating the end of an era. Emerson Mnangagwa returned from exile, promising a new democracy. Mugabe lived out his final years in relative seclusion, his legacy already hotly debated and irrevocably changed. On September 6, 2019, at the age of 95, Robert Gabriel Mugabe passed away in Singapore, where he had been receiving medical treatment. His death marked the definitive end of the liberation generation's hold on power in Zimbabwe. Robert Mugabe's story is a profound odyssey, from freedom fighter to statesman, from beloved liberator to an autocrat grappling with his own fallibility. His life mirrors the complex journey of post-colonial Africa itself, a continent striving for self-determination, often wrestling with the very ideals it fought so hard to achieve. His legacy remains fiercely contested, but one thing is certain: Robert Gabriel Mugabe will forever be an indelible, towering, and profoundly controversial figure in the annals of African history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and legacy of a man who irrevocably shaped a nation and left an indelible mark on the African continent. Your engagement and curiosity fuel our passion for uncovering these crucial stories. If you found value in this exploration, if you believe in the power of understanding our shared past, then please consider subscribing to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming historical documentaries, where we'll continue to unravel fascinating narratives and bring the past to life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning. Thank you for watching.